Hello, everybody. This is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Part 2, Chapter 4. The upper society at Petersburg is remarkably united. Everybody knows everybody else, and everybody exchanges visits. But it has its subdivisions. Anna Arkadyevna Karenina had friendly relations with 3 different circles of which society was composed. The first was the official circle, to which her husband belonged, composed of his colleagues and subordinates, bound together or even further subdivided by the most varied and often the most capricious social relations. It was difficult for Anna to comprehend the sentiment of almost religious respect which at first she felt for all these personages. Now she knew them as one learns to know people in a provincial city, with all their weaknesses and failings. She knew how the shoe pinched, and what were their relations among themselves, and to the common centre to which they all belonged. But this official clique which her husband's interests lay no longer pleased her, and she did her best to avoid it, in spite of the insinuations of the Countess Lydia Ivanovna. The second circle in which Anna moved was that which had helped Alexey Alexandrovitch in his career. The pivot of this wheel was the Countess Lydia Ivanovna. It was composed of aged, ugly, charitable, and zealous women, and intelligent, learned, and ambitious men. Someone had given it the sobriquet of conscience of Petersburg society. Karenin was very much devoted to this coterie, and Anna, whose flexible character easily accommodated itself to her surroundings, had made friends in its number. After her return from Moscow, this set of people seemed to her insupportable. It seemed as if she herself, as well as the others, were unnatural, and she saw the Countess Lydia as infrequently as she possibly could. And finally, Anna had friendly relations with the society, properly speaking, fashionable society, that world of balls, dinner parties, brilliant toilets, which with one hand lays fast hold of the court lest it fall absolutely into the demi-monde which its members affect to despise, but whose tastes are precisely similar. The bond that attracted her to this sort of society was the Princess Betsy Tverskaya, the wife of one of her cousins, who enjoyed an income of 120,000 rubles, and who had taken Anna under her protection as soon as she came to Petersburg. She had a great attraction for her, and rallied her on the society that gathered around the Countess Lydia. "But when I am old and ugly I will do the same," said Betsy. "But a young and pretty woman like yourself has as yet no place in such an asylum." Anna at first had avoided as far as possible the society of the Princess Betsy Tverskaya. The manner of life in these lofty spheres calling for expenses beyond her means, but after her return from Moscow all this was changed. She neglected her worthy old friends, and cared to go only into grand society. It was there that she experienced the troublesome pleasure of meeting Vronsky. They met oftener than elsewhere at the house of Betsy, who was a Vronsky before her marriage, and was an own cousin of the Count. He moreover went everywhere that he was likely to meet Anna, and, if possible, spoke to her of his love. She made no advances, but her heart, as soon as she saw him, instantly felt the sensation of fullness which had seized her the moment that they met. For the first time, near the train at Moscow, this joy, she knew, betrayed itself in her eyes, in her smile, but she had not the power to hide it. Anna at first sincerely tried to persuade herself that she was angry because he persisted in forcing himself upon her. But one evening, when she was present at a house where she expected to meet him, and he failed to come, she perceived clearly, by the pang that went through her heart, how vain were her illusions, and how her infatuation, instead of displeasing her, formed the ruling passion for her life. A famous diva was singing for the second time, and all the society of Petersburg was at the theater. Vronsky saw his cousin there, and without waiting for the entr'acte, left his seat in the first row to visit her box. "Why didn't you come to dinner?" she demanded of him, and then she added in a whisper, and with a smile, so as to be heard only by him, "I admire the second sight of lovers." She was not there. "But come to my house after the opera." Vronsky looked at her as though he would ask what she meant, and Betsy replied with a nod. He thanked her with a smile and sat down. "But how I miss all your pleasantries! What have become of them?" continued the princess, who followed with keen pleasure the progress of this passion. "You are in love, my dear." "That is all that I ask for," he replied with a smile of good humor, "to be in love. If I complain, it is not because I'm not sufficiently in love, for, to tell the truth, I'm beginning to lose hope." "What hope could you have?" asked Betsy, taking the part of her friend. "Entendons-nous." But the fire in her eyes told with sufficient clearness that she understood as well as he did what his hope meant. "None," replied Vronsky, laughing and showing his regular white teeth. "Excuse me," he added, taking the opera glasses from his cousin's hand in order to direct it across her shoulder at one of the opposite boxes. "I fear I'm becoming ridiculous." He knew very well that in Betsy's eyes and in those of her world he ran no such risk. He knew perfectly well that though a man might seem ridiculous by being hopelessly in love with a young girl or an unmarried woman, he ran no such risk if he made love to a married woman. Such sport was grand and exciting, and thus Vronsky, as he handed back the opera glasses, looked at his cousin with a smile lurking under his mustache. "Why didn't you come to dinner?" she asked again, unable to refrain from admiration of him. "I suppose I must tell you." "I was busy, and what about? I'll give you one guess out of 100, out of 1,000. You would never hit it. I have been reconciling a husband with his wife's persecutor." "Yes, fact." "What, and you succeeded?" "Pretty nearly." "You must tell me all about it in between the acts," said Betsy, rising. "Impossible. I'm going to the French theater." "From Nilsson?" said Betsy incredulously, though she could not have distinguished Nilsson from the poorest chorus singer. "But what can I do? I've made an appointment in order to finish my act of peacemaking." "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be saved," said Betsy, remembering that she had heard somewhere some such quotation.